Are you now?
Am I what?
Good.
Let me get these headphones straightened out a little bit. Yeah, I'm all right.
You all right?
I'm all right.
I'm all right, all right, all right.
All right.
All right. Throw it in Anomalous Universe.
I forgot to.
Mm-hmm.
That group still exists? Anonymous
Oh, yeah.
Universe?
Oh,
People
yeah.
still post in there and shit?
Oh, yeah.
I haven't been in there in a while.
It's out there, Steve.
Nice. Facebook group, that word. Anomalous Universe. Yeah. There's anomalies in there.
Sure.
Stephen Patrick Carrickton, right? That's who runs that?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Hell of a guy that I've never talked to.
Yep. All right.
Sorry, I'm making some noise. I gotta move some things around.
Get yourself situated before we fucking.
I'm situating. I got a whole bunch of free shit given to me, and it's all over my office here. So, okay. Free shit's moved. Oh, that's much better. I can get under the desk now.
And you're good?
I'm good. Start the show.
This is the Fortean Slip, episode 27, The Time Traveler Paradox. Welcome. I did a follow-up show on the John Titor II interview. What was it? The night after we did the show, I think.
I don't know. I wasn't there.
Well, you weren't available, Steve. So, and I talked with Phil about that because Phil had been in the chat just fucking screaming.
The great Phil Poling of Para Breakdown.
Yes. So I obviously I'd wanted to get you guys' take on, what happened, what went down. And I had explained in that episode with Phil that, we were told that we couldn't bash him, that if we did, he would bail
immediately.
And if we had started trying to contradict him on anything, even if we had done it lightly, it probably would have been the same thing.
Although we did it humorously a couple times.
Correct. So I basically, to start off, I'd really like to get your take on what happened, Steve.
Well, I thought it was a great interview, to be honest with you. I had fun. I mean, the guy he's got an answer for everything. I mean, he's not legit or anything, in my opinion, but we kind of knew that going in. Anybody who's calling themselves John Titor is not going to be the John Titor because, but he didn't know how to use Google Hangouts. He had trouble even getting on his phone and all that stuff. So I kind of knew beforehand that it wasn't going to be like this highly intelligent, thought out, interview.
Right.
And then we decided, I think before the show, just to let him talk,
Yeah, I figured give him enough rope, he'll hang himself, he'll say something, I won't say that he did say a lot of things that were contradictory based on what he said. Like the biggest one was he claimed he was cloned in the 70s, and then he brought up, well, when was the first sheep cloned? In the 90s.
Well, that was 1996 to be exact.
Right. And how does that have any bearing on you being cloned in the 70s?
Well, because he said, if I interpreted him right, he said that he was cloned after Dolly. The way I was interpreting it anyway. Well, Dolly was cloned in 1976, and he claimed to be cloned in 77 or 78. Or 1996 she was cloned. So that didn't make any sense. And then his G-force explanation was a crock of shit.
Oh God, I'm just sitting here like, what the fuck is he talking about?
So, the guy was entertaining. And I still go out and hang out with him and have a beer with the guy. He was entertaining as hell. But
right.
He's definitely not.
Now, did you look into him at all?
Yeah, I did. I don't want to really get into, because, a lot of the things that were posted online about him, Dana Lee, what's his last name? Stern. Yeah. Is who allegedly he really
Robin.
So anyway, his son has posted a lot of really, really negative stuff about him. So if you get a chance to go ahead and look at it, But because it's somebody that's that close to him, I don't really want to. I don't know how to take it. I don't know if any of it's true or if any of it's fake, or I'll just judge the guy by what we talk to him about, Which
right,
is,
and all that information is out there if anybody wants to look for it.
I mean, I found him highly entertaining.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, he was a great interview.
Yeah.
As far as that went. I mean, but for us to do the show the way that we would like to do it generally, with him it wasn't possible. And I wanted to have him on. I mean, I immediately did a show to, clarify things afterwards.
Yeah. I don't think we needed a clarification. Our loyal listeners, I think, might have figured it out. Some of them maybe not, but so what? We did a show with a guy and we let him talk. Big deal,
Right.
No big.
So, Richard, what did you think? If you're like listening, awake.
I think the guy was a complete lunatic, but he was a better interview than the Doomsday Preppers.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
See, I enjoyed the Doomsday Preppers. I thought they were very informative and they made some sense. And that's why you guys didn't like them.
I didn't think they were all that informative.
Well, I liked them.
I also thought that they weren't insane enough. And when we get Doomsday Preppers, we want a certain level of insanity.
That was disappointing, that part of it.
Hmm.
You do need a little bit of insanity.
I mean, he was clearly making it up as he went along. There was no, he wasn't reading from a script. It was just anything we'd have said, he would have said he was involved with.
You don't think he had a general backstory?
Nah, I think that he was winging it. I reckon that if we'd brought up anything, he would have found a way to connect himself to it.
Here's what I think is, and I think Richard's right there. I don't know that he was necessarily winging it totally. I think he has basic knowledge of every conspiracy, not every conspiracy, but 99% of your conspiracy theories out there. He has basic knowledge enough to come up with an answer for whatever you were going to ask him.
Right.
I don't think he's ever been involved in anything besides writing a couple of books.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, he was going to come up with an answer. It might have took him a couple seconds to think of it, but he wasn't, he's a good storyteller. Well, I can't even say that because he was all over the fucking place.
Well, what I'm more curious about, is if his books have the same story that he told us.
I'm not going to go find out.
Right, but I'm not curious enough to go buy the books.
Well, the first book he doesn't promote anymore, and there was some controversy behind that. And I did look into that a little bit. He claims it was the other guy's fault. There was a lawsuit and all that. I don't know how that came out, but what happened was when he signed the contract to write the book with those original people, he signed the contract, John Titor. So the contract basically became null and void legally. So now, of course, he's got all sorts. If you go to JohnTitor2.com or whatever his website is, he's got all sorts of negative things to say about the people that he was working with at the time and the book and stuff like that. But if you sign the wrong name, you have no legal standing, and that's, I think, where that comes from. So he wrote 2 more books after that, and those were the ones he was promoting on our show, the 2 that he wrote after that. So, which he sells for about $30 to $50 a piece on eBay and Amazon.
Jesus Christ!
I know.
That's
so if you believed in this guy's story on our show last week, then go ahead and buy his book. Support him a little bit.
Yeah.
I'll just go buy his book anyway because I'm sure it's a great read.
I'm guessing he's probably going to need the money. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously he's a bullshit artist, and most, he's kind of reminds me a lot of Norm Glasser, to be honest with you. He can come up with a good story if he needs to, but it's full of shit when you break it down. That kind of thing.
Right.
If he would have had more, if we would have submitted the questions ahead of time, it would have been a much different interview, I think. But we don't do that.
How so?
Well, because then he would have had time to research his answers. I think he could be a great. I think that's what he does is a lot of internet research, kind of like what I used to do. So he has a lot of knowledge of different subjects. So if we would have submitted the questions beforehand, he might have had better answers than explaining time travel with G-force, that kind of thing. But we don't submit answers or questions ahead of time because we want the real answer that he's going to give,
Right. And we want our conversations to be much more organic.
Organic, yeah. Oops, I put that in there.
That's one of the things that I mentioned to him before the show because we were sitting in the hangout, obviously, and he started talking about the stuff.
Don't.
Yeah, just leave that. Save it for the show. We'll talk about it during the show. Don't worry about that. Because I definitely don't want to know ahead of time, if possible, when we're going to be talking about this thing. I want it to unfold the way that it would.
Well, hell, even when you and I do a show and Richard and all, if we start talking about some pre-show, we stop each other so it's more organic for the show, right? If it'll make good show fodder, then we'll talk about it beforehand.
Yeah, that's just the way it is.
So if anybody comes on our show for future reference, we're not going to submit questions ahead of time. We're not going to talk in the hangout ahead of time. We'll get a little bit of backstory on, obviously you have to, but we don't want to go into depth into anything so that it makes a better show that way.
Oh, absolutely.
And it gives people less time to, formulate answers. We want to know what you're really thinking. And that's what we did with him, and that's what we do with every guest.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I liked the interview. Now, did I buy his story? No. I'm a John Titor purist.
Okay. As soon as he said he was cloned, which I didn't know prior, I didn't know he said that. It was going to say that. I had to mute myself because I damn near busted out laughing because come on now.
Well, if you pay attention to the show, there's so many times that I start laughing.
Yeah. Well, I muted myself every time because I don't want to offend the guy. I mean, I want to do an appropriate interview, and I have nothing against the guy. I mean, if that's what he believes, maybe he really believes this shit. I don't know. But I was trying to ask questions that would throw him off, like how does time travel work, and is Andy Kaufman still alive? That kind of thing. I wanted to hear his answers for everything because he claims to be involved with it all. Every historical event for the last 50 years, he had some sort of part in.
Oh yeah, he was part of everything. And it was just like, I've been to the edges of space. I've done all this and what?
Okay, if you are in a military program that's a black program, like let's say time travel, let's say they actually have a program for that. You're not going to be involved in anything but that particular program. You're not going to, there's just no other way. You're not going to know anything about UFOs and space travel and shit like that. You're going to know about time travel. And you're probably not going to know the inner workings of time travel either, because that you don't need to know. You just need to know that it exists and this is what you do on your, it's compartmentalized when it's a black project like that. There's no way he's going to know all that stuff about all those things. It just doesn't work that way in the military or the government,
Yeah, they don't want one hand knowing what the other hand's doing.
Because it makes sense. They don't need those secrets to get in the hands of the enemy.
Right.
So that's why it's compartmentalized, which makes a ton of sense. I wanted to ask him about the LSD experiments and if he was involved with those.
That I wouldn't doubt.
I should have asked. And it was on the tip of my tongue, but he kept going off on a tangent.
Oh, yeah.
I really wanted him to predict the future, though. And he starts going on this sea garbage thing. I'm like,
the plastic garbage
that's
patch.
Current news, not future news. We already know that exists. I wanted
according to him, that's the problem in the future.
Well, it is the problem now, apparently, too.
Right.
That's not predicting the future. Well, I mean, I guess it is in a way, but it's not like I thought we were going to get a real prediction. Like who's going to be the next president or some bullshit like that. But we didn't get it. We didn't even get that.
Well, I mean, even John Titor, the original John Titor, not this John Titor II, the sequel. He wouldn't talk about anything like that, really.
Oh, but
I mean, he did say a lot of shit.
Yeah.
But
the original John Titor had knowledge of engineering and, the possibilities of time travel. This John Titor couldn't give any scientific type answer at all.
I love how he was like, yeah, you can't time travel with a car.
Well, you probably
a Camaro or whatever the fuck it was.
It was a Corvette.
A Corvette. I don't fucking remember.
Well, okay, here's how you tell that this John Titor was not even close to being legit. The first thing he does is say that the first John Titor does not exist, but he's called John Titor.
Well, no, he claimed that there was a Titor before him.
Yeah, but he said the first John Titor was a figment of Art Bell, and who was the other one?
Oliver Williams.
Right. It was a made-up story by those guys.
And for anybody who doesn't know, Oliver Williams is the guy that runs the JohnTitor.com website.
Ran because it's been defunct for a long time. I mean, it still exists, right?
Yeah. Nothing's gone. I don't know if it's still up there, and any of the interviews that have been on like Coast to Coast and stuff about John Titor usually involve Oliver Williams.
Right.
And people have made the claim that he is John Titor.
And he could be.
But nobody knows.
And I don't think we will.
No.
Maybe on his deathbed, if he is.
No, even then, I think it's all just, there's too much fucking bullshit involved.
But what I'm saying is, if that was a figment of their imagination, or it was done for the Art Bell show, which I don't think, because Art Bell, while he had a lot of kooks and crazies on, I think Phil said it, he always took them with a grain of salt. He wasn't like promoting hoaxes. He wasn't involved in hoaxes. He just put them on his show.
No, but he had a tendency to let people go and go and go
right.
and go.
Kind of like what we did.
Right. That was exactly what we did. So, I mean, like I said, I don't know. I don't know what the deal is with this guy.
Art Bell was never really involved in the backstory. He wasn't involved with these people prior to them coming on his show, except maybe to have a conversation with them about their stories.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still always going to have a special place in my heart for the John Titor story, because it was one of those things that when I found out about it, I delved into it so deep. I mean, I think I was unemployed at the time. I was on unemployment. I was just sitting at home.
Yep.
And I just literally went through everything. And
even that story, even how in-depth and involved and scientifically accurate a lot of things were, there were still so many holes in it that even to us uneducated folk, it was easy to pick apart.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Right. Once you started really, I mean, when I went down the rabbit hole, like I listened to the interviews with Oliver Williams. I went to the website, read all the message board posts. And, then when things started occurring, like these things that he claimed would happen, and they didn't happen. One of the things he said was a huge problem was mad cow disease. And how much have we heard about mad cow disease recently?
Well, there were some things, but I think that was the current news at the time.
Yeah.
It had been just started or something, and there was a lot of problems with mad cow disease, but it wasn't the problem that he was saying it was going to be. But he had the excuse of the divergent timelines and all that shit. This guy, the guy we had on, didn't even have those excuses.
Yeah, I don't even think he brought up divergent timelines once.
No.
Or multiple world theory.
He didn't even really want to talk about time travel.
No. Hardly
at all. And when questioned, he talked about it a little bit. I'm trying to see what kinds of time travel there are, and there's portals and I don't know. He's going faster than the speed of light. Obviously, that would be a form of time travel, but he just didn't have any explanations on any of it. Just what they were, but not anything further than that. So that's why I'm thinking this guy does a lot of internet reading.
A lot of
So we
Googling.
know, yeah, a lot of Googling, and probably is heavily involved in internet Facebook groups and chat rooms and things like that. I'm assuming under a different name. And other than that, he doesn't really have any in-depth knowledge of anything.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think he does either.
No more than anybody else would. That is a conspiracy theory junkie.
I mean,
or something.
I think I said it on the follow-up show. He either made up an elaborate story to try to get some publicity, or he's a very disturbed man. One of the two things, in my opinion, one of the two things is true.
Well,
and you may be right, Steve. It may be both.
He seems to have the support of his wife too. I mean, he kept bringing her up, so I don't think it's.
I don't know. I don't know about that, but
I mean, he kept bringing her up on the show, and I don't think it's off limits to mention that. But he seems to have. I mean, he said that it was her idea to start a Facebook group or a Facebook page and all that stuff,
and tell his story.
Maybe that's just to get him out of her hair.
But according to him, he met her in the program.
Yeah, so she's part of the program as well.
And then he went to a certain timeline now, or wherever he dumped himself. I can't remember when he said he dumped himself.
I think it was the 80s.
But no, I don't think it was the 80s. I think it was in the 90s or early 2000s that he had decided to, that's when he settled down with his wife. But it just all seems way too fucked up.
Well, one of his predictions did come true, though. He did predict that President Trump would become president, and he was right, although it didn't make it in his book because they thought it was too silly. So we don't have any proof that he did that, but he says so.
Well, he's a silly boy.
I'd like to point out that The Simpsons predicted Donald Trump would be president, so that ship's already sailed.
Well, he, just like Phil said, he's getting all his script from movies and television shows and things like that. And absolutely, because everything he said can be traced back to some source on the internet, or, there was nothing new, no in-depth knowledge of anything.
All bullshit.
But it was fun. I mean, I enjoyed it.
Oh, it was a fun journey.
Yep.
And he took us right through it.
Well, he had everything you'd want a guest to have. Every aliens and time travel,
space travel.
Yeah, everything.
Ancient aliens.
Oh yeah, he bought all that ancient alien shit.
And God knows I love me some ancient aliens, Steve. Yeah. Been on a fucking bender.
I couldn't do it, man. I'd have nightmares about Sukalos.
You know what's funny is if you watch the earlier, the first season, his hair's like kind of tame.
Yeah.
And it just gets crazier and crazier. Yeah, that fucking guy.
By the time the show's over, I mean, do they still film those shows?
The Ancient Aliens?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're on season 13.
So by the time that show's over, all you're going to see is a fucking pile of hair on the chair.
Yeah,
talking,
it'll be like Cousin Ed.
Hair.
That'll be fucking great.
I like Childress, though. Childress is my favorite. And Sukalos is good, but Childress, man, you can't get past.
It's some kind of rock formation. Fucking Childress. And the reason why I like the show initially is a lot of it goes into these ancient civilizations, which I find fascinating.
Right.
Do I think that the ancient alien theory is the way to go? No. I definitely subscribe to the we are a species with amnesia theory.
Yep.
We've forgotten our past. And that's because, and if you watch any of those shows like Life After Man or what, they say all of this would be gone in a blink. Gone.
Well, in a matter of 100 or 2 years, most of what we've built up would be unrecognizable. Because go walk or go drive down the road and see an abandoned house that has no heat and electric in it, and how fast does it start to deteriorate?
And how do we keep our records? The records of our history. They're on paper. They're on fucking hard drives. All of that'll be gone.
It wouldn't take much to wipe that out.
It'd be gone.
You'd have some sort of magnetic storm and wipe out all our digital shit.
And maybe, just maybe, these ancient civilizations knew that would happen. And that's why they put everything in stone. I don't know. I'm not saying that that's what happened, but maybe that's why they did that shit.
I think we just have a lot of lost technology, and we don't give prior civilizations the abilities that they should have had.
The credit.
The credit, right, for the abilities that they had. I mean, they did everything with, rocks and stone and
rocks and whips and a shitload of slaves.
Right, but the knowledge that they had, we don't know. So, and a lot of it was slave labor, sure. And we had to relearn a lot of that stuff, when some of these ancient civilizations went away.
Oh, yeah.
And it took us hundreds and hundreds of, maybe even 1,000 years to learn some of it again. We're just rediscovering things now that they knew, that kind of thing. And we have technology that they may not have had, but they may have had some sort of technology. I mean, look at the Baghdad battery. It's definitely a battery of some sort. They were able to power something with it.
Right, but it's so primitive.
Right, but there's nothing else it could have been used for that I know of. Or it could have been used for electroplating. But even that was technology that we didn't give them credit for. That kind of thing.
They weren't charging iPhones with the fucking thing.
No, but they could have charged a light or some sort of something electrically.
Right. No, absolutely.
Or it could have been a medical device for all we know. They could have used it for shock therapy or something. We don't know. But it's technology that they shouldn't have had, but they did. And we've lost knowledge of it because the records are gone.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I like I said, I just get fascinated by it, looking into it. Göbekli Tepe is the fucking place that makes me shake my head. Why was it buried? Why are the depictions of animals that aren't even in that region of the fucking world? Why? There's just too many fucking questions.
Well, it's obvious to me that the ancients were able to do a lot of things that we never suspected they could do. I mean, for God's sake, they got here, and they shouldn't have been able to at the time. Now, the Bering Strait crossing, I get that, but there's evidence that they used boats to get to Lake California and stuff like that when they shouldn't have been able to do that sort of thing. But they were able to do that sort of thing.
Well, and the one thing that bothers me with the Ancient Aliens show is they'll say, well, we see these pyramid structures everywhere,
Right.
and it must mean that they had shared knowledge or whatever. And it's like, dude, you give a kid a pack of cards and have him fucking build a fucking card house, they're all going to do pretty much the same thing. If you got blocks and you put them together, like, there's only so much you can do with them.
I noticed something last night. I went to a graduation ceremony for a girl who used to come to our house a lot. She still does, but she's just a nice high school girl that comes over, and she looks at us like, her second set of parents. Okay. But anyway, we went to her graduation ceremony last night, and I'm listening to the speeches, and they were the exact same speeches I heard at a totally different high school last year when I went to a different graduation. People that didn't know each other, but it's the exact same story, the same speech.
Yep.
Almost word for word.
Mm-hmm.
People have no clue who they are. They didn't look it up on the internet. It's human nature to say certain things in a certain way or do certain things in a certain way. And that's an example of it in modern times. And it's a simple example, but it's true. You do things a certain way because that's what nature and physics and human nature tells us to do.
Well, parallel thinking is a thing.
Right.
And there are certain things that are just, I don't know, I guess universal.
Here's the speech. When we were freshmen, we did this. When we were sophomores, we did this. When we were juniors, it's the same speech every fucking graduation you go to. And it's just the way it is, so it's the parallel thinking thing. You want to have that timeline when you graduate high school. So you want to relay it, you want to remember things. And so I think a lot of it could be passed down too. And when cultures move, as we know they did, we all came from some source at the beginning. Everybody did. So these stories get passed down through generations, and it's just embedded into us. And a pyramid is a strong structure. It's I think the strongest structure you can make, ain't it?
I mean, I don't know if that's a truth, but all I know is if you're building with blocks, like
It kind of makes
coming to a pyramid idea, it's just not a stretch for them all to have come to that same type of structure.
Now, if it was the same exact pyramid, built the same exact way every time, but it's not. There's differences, and there's a lot of differences. Some of them are step pyramids, some of them are actual, smooth-sided pyramids, that kind of thing. So it's a shape, and it's a shape that you see all the time in ancient civilizations, and even nowadays, there's people who would build a pyramidal structure. When you drop dirt on, when you have a bucket of dirt and you drop it on the ground from a height, what's the shape that it comes up into? It comes up to a point, It's a natural shape that people gravitate to. That's all it is.
Yeah. And like, I want to be fascinated by the idea, of course, like ancient aliens, fuck yeah. Who wouldn't want, to know something like that? But I tend to think that either we are a species with amnesia where civilization has rose and fell, or technologically rose and fell. Or, there's a book by Anne McCaffrey, The Dragon Riders of Pern. And you start off the series, these people are all living in this, it's very much like a fantasy type world. They're all like, there's holds and there's not really like kings or anything like that, but there's certain people in charge of this area and this area, and they all ride dragons to stop this shit that falls from the fucking sky. Anyway, come to find out after you read the series long enough, these people landed on this planet in a fucking spaceship ages before when the series starts, and they had forgotten that they were space travelers.
Mm-hmm.
It just got lost in the fucking history. So I find that idea to be fascinating. And I find it to be way more plausible than ancient aliens.
Well, I mean, if we came here with space travel, we were technically ancient aliens. I mean, and it is a possibility that happened, that we were colonized from some place else. I doubt it, but it's a possibility.
Yes, but if we're the ancient aliens,
then there is no ancient
we weren't
alien.
taught by ancient aliens.
Right. We were.
Right.
And
We were the people.
Like you said, that's way more plausible than, being helped along. Because it makes no sense for some other civilization that we do not pose a threat to anytime in the near future to come here and do anything.
Well, there's people that think that they created us using ape DNA. There's people that think that they enslaved us when they got here. There's people that think they created us to enslave us. There's people who think that they took us over to enslave us. And then there's people who think they just helped us.
And none of those theories have any, plausible explanation, or not plausible, but there's no proof for any of it.
Well, they're just questions.
They're questions, and they're good questions to have. Where did we come from? Everybody wants to know that.
Yeah, I just don't like the idea of the way they present it. Like, it has to be this.
Well, they're presenting it as truth, and it's not.
Yeah, they act like they're not, but they do.
One of those explanations may be truthful. I subscribe to the evolution theory, and I didn't for most of my life. So, but it just makes the most sense, to me.
Yeah. Well, I think science is always ever changing.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be dealing with, it's a changing field. It makes adjustments. Shit happens. I mean,
I want to say I subscribe to the evolution theory. That doesn't mean I don't believe that there's a God or anything like that. I'm not going to say whether I believe that or not.
Mm-hmm.
If there were, I fully would believe that he could, a God of some sort, which is, I guess, a kind of an ancient alien theory on its own, would use evolution. It would make more sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's not saying that it doesn't jive with the Bible, because a lot of people will say that. So what? It does jive with the Bible if you just kind of look at it the way it is. Adam and Eve is a story, and it's a story to explain how we came about. It doesn't
Right.
necessarily have to be taken literally.
Well, there was one I watched just recently about Satan. And I loved how they were like, well, maybe Satan was just misrepresented.
Well,
You know,
Satan, just like Adam and Eve, Satan is just a story to explain why there's evil in the world. That's it.
right, and like, I don't know. It's just the way they present the stuff is all. You know, yes. Should there be questions? Absolutely. Is
Yeah.
this stuff fascinating? Fuck yeah. Well, that's
Are we
why
ever
they
going
got.
to get to? Are we ever going to get to true answers? Probably
No.
not.
But that's why there's 13 seasons of that damn show.
Yeah, and it is fascinating to see what the ancient cultures were able to do with or without help from above. You know,
Right.
it's fascinating. I mean, the level of craftsmanship that went into that. You know, building some of these structures, even like Stonehenge. How did it's fascinating to try to understand how they did it. Now we're pretty sure we know how they did it now. As far as sorry, honey, pretty sure we know how they did it now with
Professional
slave
Steve.
labor. And yeah, I know. I got all these stuff given to me and I threw it down the steps and I forgot to go fix it, so she has to move it. But it's not really heavy stuff. It's like air pillows for packing stuff. But no, it's fascinating to try to understand what level of technology these people had and how they were able to create it with just primitive tools. But they were. And that is more fascinating to me, that they were able to do this stuff.
See, I don't think they did it with primitive tools.
Well,
I don't. I think they had more advanced tools than what we think they had.
I don't know. I mean, I've seen documentaries that go both ways. Some showing that it is possible to make these kind of cuts and things with a string and a weight on the bottom for your level and that kind of thing, and stone against stone on stone. I mean, if they were using diamond to cut with, that's, sharp and that kind of thing. I mean, it is possible. Now, in the time periods that the things were built, the timeline, maybe it wasn't possible. Maybe they did have something that we don't know about, and they probably did.
Mm-hmm.
But it is totally possible with what they had that we know of to build a lot of this stuff.
Now, what do you think about the guy who built the Coral Castle?
Well, obviously, what did he use? Nothing.
They
really.
They don't know, and he did it all by himself, supposedly.
Yeah, but nothing so far advanced that we don't know about.
Well, he claimed to have figured out how the Egyptians built the pyramids,
and then he conveniently left out the answer.
Yeah,
and then he died. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, he was this little guy.
Well, if I remember right, now maybe it wasn't him, but there's a guy who did a Stonehenge type thing, and he just did it all with levers and rollers and logs, and you can turn that giant stone on just a little tiny pebble.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't take levitation to move those stones, that kind of thing, and he was able to do it. I think it's somewhere in the States. He was able to do it fairly easily by himself. One man built a Stonehenge.
One man alone.
So because our level of thinking is different than the ancients' level of thinking. We think we have to have all this machinery and technology and stuff. They didn't have it. So obviously they didn't think about how to do it that way. They had to come up with a system that worked for them.
Mm-hmm.
Because we weren't there, and there's no real written record of how it was done, we have to come up with ancient alien theories to explain it.
Mm-hmm.
That's all.
Yeah, it's all
probably
fascinating.
Very simple, easy to explain type of thing, and it's been proven over and over that it could have been done with what we know they had. Most of it, not all of it. I mean, you've got examples, I'm sure, that we saw.
Well, I just don't know. I don't know. I'm not trying to say that what my opinion is the way, or that somebody else's theory is the way. I just think the shit is absolutely fascinating. That they constantly keep finding things that push back human civilization. You know, they're like, oh, well, this is when human civilization started. And then they're like, oh, shit, here's this other thing.
Yeah. And I think that's going to continue to happen because as we uncover new things, new evidence, we're going to, and maybe eventually we'll explain scientifically how the pyramids were actually built by evidence that we uncover, or different, monoliths and things like that by things that we uncover in the area that it happened.
And, you know, to all the people who are like, well, they wrote about this stuff in the Mahabharata and, the stories of the gods. And listen, people have been bullshitting for thousands of years. People have been full of shit forever.
Yep.
You know, just because somebody wrote something down doesn't necessarily mean it's true. Fucking Bill O'Reilly writes fucking piece of shit books all the time that don't really, follow the facts. I think he was called out for it. Fucking got shit for it.
Yeah. I don't know. I'll follow Bill O'Reilly.
And those books are supposed to be factual, but it happens.
History is written by the winners,
Right.
So even the history of the United States is going to be different in our opinion and the white man's opinion than it is in the Native Americans' opinion. It's
absolutely.
Yeah, look at the War of 1812, how that's remembered.
Okay, how's it remembered?
Well, America called it a prank.
We did?
Prank?
Yeah, it was called a prank in all the newspapers.
Now, careful now, Richard. I live right on Lake Erie, which was a big part of the War of 1812. You might insult me. You might offend me.
I meant, but when we sailed up and burned the White House down and basically torched D.C.
Bastards.
Well, yeah, it was a bit dickish, but it was called a prank by American newspapers.
Huh. Well, yeah, and it's like I said, it's just how the person who's writing it down at the time, usually the winner, remembers the story, and that's the one that's going to become popular. That's the one that everybody's going to remember. There's been lots of things in history books that have proven that not to have happened the way it said it was. I mean, it's just the way it is. History books are rewritten every year for like high school students. They're rewritten every year, and things are added and removed. The history book that I read in high school is going to be different than the history book that my son reads today. And it's not because of the new things that happened, but the old things that happened are different than what I read in high school. So it's because facts come out or different things change, and you can't say certain things nowadays or whatever, that kind of thing. They want to remove certain pieces of history because it's unpleasant. That kind of.
And they try to coddle children because they don't want to introduce them to too much early on, and then you get to college and you're like, whoa, what the fuck?
College is an eye-opening experience for a lot of kids. I went to a Christian college, and it
wasn't very eye-opening for you.
Oh, actually, it was. I mean, because you're meeting kids from all different parts of the country. Because I went to a college in Springfield, Missouri, and I'm from Pennsylvania, a little hick town in Pennsylvania. And they were taught the Bible totally different than I was taught the Bible and things like that. So even in a small sect like that, Christianity, let's say, well, not small, but you know what I mean, one section of society, things are taught totally different, say, in the South than they are up north. It's just the way things are.
Yeah, I mean, I never knew until like I saw it on TV that there were Christians that held fucking poisonous snakes and shit like that, talked in tongues. I mean the Christianity that I knew, that I grew up with, was not like that.
And you got several different variations of Christianity. You got Catholicism, you got your Baptists, you got your Methodists, you got your Pentecostals. There's and then even in the let's say Pentecostals, for example. I grew up in a Pentecostal church, but we didn't do snake handling. We didn't do that crazy shit.
I could have only hoped.
I know, it would have been made it for a better show. I understand. But there are people in that sect of Christianity that believe in that stuff. Mm-hmm. And so it's just, and I'm not singling out religion, for example, but I'm just saying that we remember things the way we want to remember them, and we practice things the way we want to practice them, regardless of what really happened or what really is the truth or not.
Oh yeah.
And so that's why we have these ancient alien theories, and we have Christianity, and we have all these different religions and things like that, is because it's however we feel like remembering things and doing things. It's just the way it is.
And the interesting thing that they go into on that the Ancient Alien show too is that a lot of these ancient religions all follow a similar theme, and that is very true.
Well, I think most religion, basically, you can trace almost every religion, at least the older religions, back to a one religion, and then it was just branched off so many times, you know.
I mean, I don't know so much about that, but I just know that there's a great many of them that are so similar.
Very similar. I mean, you got flood stories in every religion, almost every religion. You've got quote unquote virgin birth type stories in almost every religion.
Mhm.
You've got a savior in almost every religion.
Yeah.
So which one's right?
And that's
Or
the
any of
ultimate
them.
question, and we're never gonna know.
Right. And
Yeah.
that's to be honest with you, that's why I quit going to church. I started looking into all these religions, and they were all so similar. There's a lot of major differences too, but if you look back, all the stories are the same, just with different characters. All of them.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I don't know. I've always had questions. Like, it was one of the things that got me in trouble when I was a teenager because, you know, one of the first times my grandmother got really ornery about me reading the Bible, because she was really huge into, reading the Bible and being a good Christian. And, I sat down, started reading Genesis. I literally turned the page. It's supposed to be just Adam and Eve in the garden. Then they have like what, 2 sons, and then they send them off to the city. How the
Yeah.
fuck did the city get there?
Yeah, that was kind of always a question I had, and there's explanations for it, but I'm not sure they're great explanations. But
The city of Adam and Eve's children.
well, some say that it's just not written down, but there were more children born and things like that, and we're just hearing about the first 2 or this last
And they
2.
were all just, getting together and hooking up. It was all kinds of fucking.
I have nothing against religion or religious people. If you need to believe and that helps you make it through life, have at,
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, and maybe you're right. Maybe I'm wrong. But I choose now at this point in my life to at least hold out hope that there's a higher power out there looking out for me, but I'm not going to live my life depending on that higher power to save me from my stupidity, that kind of thing.
Oh, I mean, I think that there is some form of a quote unquote creator, but I mean, what it is or what it isn't, I don't even fucking know anymore. Like, I used to think I had a finger on the pulse of shit, and then life went on, and I was like, yeah, no, I got a fucking clue. And I'd love to know.
Yep.
I think anybody would. I think it would take a great weight off everyone's shoulders if we knew. But the fact is, we probably won't.
Well, we'll know when we die, and that's it. So.
Or we won't, because there'll be nothing. We won't know shit.
Right. So, I mean, that's the only way, unless let's say Christianity is real and there's a rapture and we're all left behind because we didn't believe. Then we'll know.
Because it's either we're made to feel like there's something more because it makes us more self-important, and that's an instinctual thing that was
but I
put
think
in
we
by
need
evolution.
I think we need that as a society too, to feel like we have more
reason to go on.
Reason to go on.
Yeah.
So if religion doesn't do anything else, at least it gives people that sort of
Hope.
ability. Hope. Yeah. Hope that there is something beyond this life. which there may or may not be. We don't know, and we're not going to know, because even in the Bible it says there's things that you're not going to know.
Yeah.
So, and that's one of them. You're not going to know until the day you die, and if there is something, you'll find out. If there isn't, that's it.
Yeah. And I'm not going to go so far as to say like I'm an atheist.
I'm not.
I believe in something. I just don't know what that something is at this point in my life.
Well, I've had experiences in my life that led me to believe that there may be something, you know, but they weren't so overwhelming for me. And you talked about speaking in tongues earlier. I've actually done that, you know, and I can't tell you 100% that came from a higher power, or if it came from my mind wanting me to do it so bad
that you just wanted to fit in.
Yeah, because everybody else was speaking in tongues at this thing, and I tried and tried and tried, and I couldn't, and then eventually I did, and I'm like, now did that just come out of my mind, or you know? And I've always had doubts about it, which I shouldn't. I shouldn't have forced myself that hard to do it, and so now, and that was a big game changer for me as far as religion. College was the next big game changer, but that was the first one. Because I've always had doubts whether it was me or if it was what everybody else believes it was, and a higher power or something like that. So, and maybe it's because I think about things differently than other people. You know, I don't want it to just say, okay, there's a God, you know, and live my life, la 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 la, and hope that everything works out because, you know, God's watching out for me. Well, I want to have a little bit of control, you know.
Yeah, well, there's some people that would argue that you have no control at all, that life is all causality.
And guess what? They may be right. They probably are.
And I'll tell you what, there's a damn good argument for that. You know, you're born at a specific point, and I'm not saying like astrologically. Fuck that. I'm talking about you're born at a specific point to two parents in a certain area. You're going to be surrounded by these people. You're going to grow up with this set of values. If you take into account all the factors, which we can't, we don't have the fucking brain to do that.
Nope.
But I'm willing to bet if you could make a supercomputer that could take in all those variables and say, you know, this is planet Earth at this point. This person's born right here. I'll guarantee you if there was a supercomputer big enough to handle it, it could plot out that fucking child's life from beginning to end.
Bollocks.
No, I believe it totally.
No, that is utter shite.
Yeah. If you gave that supercomputer the correct information, it may at least come close to telling you.
Yeah, I would agree that it would have a 60 to 70% success rate, but it wouldn't be 100% accurate.
Obviously, there's going to be factors involved that even you couldn't plot into a computer.
Exactly.
But you just took away the fucking factor that I put into the whole thing. That all of those, any factor would be involved. It would have to be everything.
But even a supercomputer couldn't predict all those factors.
Okay.
It's impossible. I mean, look at Booker T. Washington. He was born a slave. Ended up being an advisor to the President of the United States.
I still think it's possible that I definitely believe it. Like, you're born at a certain spot. You know, and all that, everything that's going to happen to you is determined in that spot.
It's possible.
Because you're going to have these parents, you're going to have these, you know, or not have parents and, you know, be adopted or whatever. You know,
but there's so many variables, though.
I agree that there's so many variables, but what I'm saying is if there was something that could take into account every variable.
Now, would this computer have this knowledge the day you were born, or is it something that progresses as you progress?
No, I would say that it would be able to plot it out at the moment of birth. It seems totally plausible to me.
I think that even you or I, if we had the knowledge of even, what the parents are like, what the situation is like in the town they live in, that kind of thing, could get a good idea of what somebody's going to grow up like. I mean, if you're from a low income family, you're probably going to grow up as a low income person generally.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, those kind of variables stay. I mean, they don't go away. If you're born rich, you're gonna probably end up a certain way. But there's so many other things in there that the best computer known to man today and even in the future, I don't think could come up with it.
Yeah, I've come to more of a conclusion that we just.
I mean, fucking Walt Disney was a high school dropout, basically.
Yeah, but I think it would have figured. But I definitely think it would have figured that out.
I don't know.
I don't even know either, Steve.
I mean, many great people started out in a fashion that you would never think they would be great.
And that's one of the things about this show is that we've almost always said we don't fucking know. I mean, that's what I think. I think that that's probably completely plausible, and that's the way it is.
I don't think it's completely plausible. I think it could be better at predicting a person's future than a human being would. But I don't think it would be 100% totally accurate. Or even 90%. I think Richard's closer with 60 to 70%. Giving all the variables that because a human has to operate that program at some point. We have to come up with the variables, or at least the program that would predict variables. And we are flawed.
So, we'll find. Maybe someday, Steve, we'll find out.
No, we won't. Yeah. Am I supposed to do?
Want to live in a world where a computer would predict your entire future?
Well, that gets into another scary.
In a world where a computer predicts your future, one Englishman.
Well, here's the thing. That gets into another scary subject too. What would they use that information for?
The robot overlords.
Would they use that information like, okay, this is the type of job you have to get, that kind of thing? So
I don't think it would be like that.
Oh,
I don't think it would be like but then again, you have to take into consideration that the computer would also know that information would be there for other people to use.
And then it kind of goes, there's people who read their horoscope every day, and guess what? It comes true. And it's because they make it come true. So do we get to see what's in this computer program as we're getting older, and are we going to work our way towards it?
We're speculating, Steve.
Yeah.
Or at the end of the day, at the end of your life, does the computer flash up with the program it predicted for you, and you can see if you stuck to it or not? Yeah, I see what Steve's saying.
Yeah.
Because if you know what's in that program, then you're going to work towards it, or you're going to work against it, one or the other. You're not, if I read my horoscope and it said today I'm going to die, I'm going to work against that.
Yeah, imagine that if your computer program just said dead at 35.
Yeah, no. I mean, would you even want to know? Would you even want to know what this computer program, if it was accurate, predicted for you? I wouldn't.
And I wasn't even saying, would we want to know or should we know or anything like that. I'm just saying it's probably possible.
I don't think with our technology of today it's possible. Maybe someday in the future, hundreds of years from now. I doubt it, but I don't think anything can predict. There's just too
an entire life.
No, I don't think so. But it would make a great movie.
Sure.
Let's write it.
Sure, the Fortean Slip book. What can we make up new names and say we were cloned?
Yeah, I don't know what I want to be yet. I've been thinking about it, what my new name should be, but I haven't come up with it yet.
I'm Alex Kincaid.
Oh, I got a whole bunch of old yearbooks today, and I've proven that Richard Allen is a time traveler. I have a yearbook here from 1927, and the first person in the yearbook, I think it's 1927. Let me see. 1929. The first person in the yearbook is, in fact, Richard Allen.
Time traveler.
Right now. Time traveler. Oh wait,
Oh.
it wasn't the 1929 year. I take it back. What year were you born, Richard?
You've been Mandela affected.
I gotta look and see. Here's 1946. In fact, you lived in my hometown, Richard. That's pretty cool.
We're
In the
doing the news.
1940s or 50s, yeah. So Richard Allen is in fact a time traveler. Yeah, I
Great.
can't find it now.
Well, on that note, Steve, do you have any news tonight?
I have news.
Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do.
Oh, that's getting better. The news theme is getting better.
Yeah, still sounds like an Irishman. Irish, Jesus Christ, an Englishman.
I have a science alert from sciencealert.com.
Alert! Alert!
There you go.
Quack, quack, quack.
Yeah, we need sound effects. I think we do. If you were to see a certain New Guinea skink, is that it? Skink? It's a lizard. Lose their tail.
Sure.
You notice that their blood isn't the usual red color we're used to, but rather a shade of green. Virulent.
Sure.
That's the word. Shade of green. What's even more bizarre is that the substance that's responsible for the green color of the lizard's blood and bones, tongues, muscles, and mucous membranes would be toxic in other animals if they carried it in such large amounts. Exactly why these skinks are filled with this toxic substance and why it doesn't kill them is something of a mystery. But new research published in Science Advances makes an important step towards answering these questions. Whereas the red color of most animals' blood comes from the oxygen-carrying pigment in red blood cells called hemoglobin. The green color in the New Guinea skink blood comes from a kind of bile pigment called biliverdin. Well, that's not even biliverdin. Maybe that's it. It's not very exciting. It is formed as red blood cells break down and is held in the plasma, the liquid that makes up most of the blood. In large quantities, it masks the red color of hemoglobin completely. So their blood really is red. It's just masked by this shit. Humans and other animals produce biliverdin too, but we excrete it into the intestine where it is eliminated from the body, probably between shit and piss. It doesn't say that. Maybe sweat. And it builds up before it builds up to toxic levels. It's what causes jaundice, by the way.
Interesting.
Yeah. But they don't know how the lizards are able to withstand so much of it. In some fish with green blood, biliverdin is tightly bound to a carrier protein which inactivates it. But that's not the case in these lizards. Scientists have put forth several reasons why it may be beneficial to have so much of it, including making them taste bad to predators or as an extreme form of camouflage. But for the most of these ideas are not convincing when applied to the New Guinea skinks. Excuse me. For example, feeding trails using native New Guinea birds and snakes have suggested that they are actually perfectly edible, even with the biliverdin. So that didn't work out scientifically. But they don't know. It's kind of funny that these guys have this. So they're trying to figure out why.
Well, I wonder when they're going to become like xenomorphs and have acid blood.
Well, basically, that's what this stuff is. Acid blood. Not exactly.
Well, it's toxic.
It's poison. And if we ate one, we'd probably die, even though birds can do it. So right. I don't know. I didn't want to read the rest of the story to find out if we'd die if we ate one. CambridgeNews.co.uk. This is about a paranormal guy. He says that he can tell you what it's like to see a ghost.
Ooh.
If you haven't seen one, of course. We've all heard tales of ghosts and ghouls and things which go bump in the night. For many of us, the idea of the paranormal is something to be feared. And I don't fear it. And it results in leaving the light on at night. But that's not the case for Huntington-born Mark Egerton, who is spending his retirement exploring the world of the unknown. Mark is 57 from, I'm going to do it, Southo, near St. Neots. Is that right, Richard? Is that right, Richard?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds right.
Okay. Hey, I got one right. Has been investigating the paranormal for more than 40 years. His explorations have taken him to some of the most haunted sites in the east of England. He doesn't like the west of England, apparently, and has enabled him to write his own book, of course. Mark's first paranormal experience, he said, one day he biked to his friend David's house in a small village called Midlow, and when he got there, he parked his bike in an old washroom, and it had always been the darkest room in the house, but it was by no means scary. As I was leaving, I felt an unpleasant freezing chill. Didn't last long, but when I looked over to my right, I saw what I believed to be a figure of a monk standing by a baker's oven. Yeah, because that's what ghosts do. They stand in old washrooms and look like monks.
Well, they got to stand somewhere, Steve.
No, they don't. They fly and float shit. When
Well,
Mark told it,
be floating in an old washing place then.
yeah, when he went home that night, he said he told his parents about what he'd seen, and they told him to stop being crazy. Basically, forget about it and stop being daft. I think that's the English word for crazy. If I'd have known the history of the farmhouse beforehand, I could have quite easily convinced myself, but it was my mind playing tricks on me. However, I was just a young lad, and the only thing I knew about the place was that it was an old farmhouse. I'm trying to get to where he says, where he says what it's like to see a ghost, but he never says it in the story. But he did have a major surgery, and it left him unable to drive for nearly a year. And in 2012, he decided it was his time to write a book because he can't go anywhere. And so he wrote a book called The Haunted History of Huntingdonshire. I said it right, too. I've always promised my late Aunt Marilyn I would write a book, and when she died, I almost felt like I owed it to her. After 40 years of dedication to the subject, I got a fair bit to say. But one of the most important things Mark claims to have learned in his years of detecting is accepting that sometimes old houses do make noises, and sometimes things just go bump in the night. So it's not necessarily a ghost.
Yeah.
The end.
Unless it is.
Unless it's a ghost, which also goes bump in the night and makes creaky noises. So basically what he was saying is that the ghost that he thought he saw as a child, if he knew the history of the area, he would have not thought it was a ghost.
Oh.
Yeah.
That
So
makes
that
sense.
didn't tell us anything about what it was like to see a ghost, except a fake one. But the breaking news, and this one's probably the most important story we've ever done.
Breaking news with Steve.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh,
Oh, we got to keep that one. We've got to keep that one. Can we record that and just play it back?
Sure, I guess. I mean, if you can get the stuff to play sound clip, sure.
Okay, I have it actually, but we have to use OBS software, and I don't know how to do that through Google Hangouts. So, Nibbles has passed away.
Who the fuck is Nibbles?
Well, he was a family's beloved pet gerbil. So when he passed away, although this isn't actually an old story, this is from 2017. Thanks, Richard. So it's not breaking news at all. But he was giving a Viking funeral by his family, which is kind of sweet. A Glastonbury-based family held an emotional Viking funeral to commemorate the death of their beloved pet gerbil, Nibbles. Nibbles was 3 when he passed away, which is actually pretty old for a gerbil, and was seen off in style thanks to the love of the pickerel family. Instead of facing a hole in the ground, the pickerels held a Viking cremation for their pet, sending him off down the river Styx on a burning pyre. The family, which holds pagan beliefs, said the idea had started as a joke suggestion, after Nibbles' gerbil companion Scarlet died a few months earlier. But Nibbles died at astrological Samhain, I think, which is the pagan feast of the dead ancestors. So it seemed kind of normal to have a magnificent funeral. Emma Pickerel told the Somerset Live. She added, "My son Ben says it was very sad, but we're all happy to give him such a good send-off."
Yay.
Ms. Pickerel is hoping Nibbles will enjoy the afterlife. I'm a storyteller, so I like momentous occasions to be as epic as possible, and I can see him now sitting at the table in the halls of Valhalla, surrounded by Valkyries quaffing mead from a drinking horn. He'll be recounting tales of glorious battles in gold-studded armor with a garnet-encrusted shield, of course.
Wow.
Thanks, Richard. Thanks for that moving, emotional, gerbil story. That's not
And
really...
let's conclude the Fortean Slip news with Steve Alcor.
Oh, man, I don't even have to do anything anymore. I love it.
Wow.
I don't even have to have a tagline now. Richard's done it all for me. Now he's producing. He may not be producing very well, but he's producing. That's what a producer does right there.
He's producing something.
Yes, producing bullshit. But
Garbage.
yeah, but it's a step in the right direction.
Well, you know, Richard did technically get us Mick West. I mean, we have to give him that.
I do have to give a shout out to Scott, the bearded picker, who's my co-host from the morning show, and he loves the idea of your tagline, riding it to zero.
Oh yeah,
Loves it.
fucking ride this thing right to the end.
Right
And
to the
I'd probably still
fucking
do it. I'll still probably do it at 0, just for the fuck of it.
What the fuck? Why not?
Yeah, someday somebody will find this thing and be like, "What the fuck were these guys doing?"
Spouting off shit
Pretty
because
much.
we could.
Pretty much. But I mean, to recap about the Titor thing, you know, hey, if you like the show and you got what we did, kudos to you. You know, do I enjoy sitting there and not being able to call a dude out? I tried to tell him in the beginning when we were talking before the show. You know, we don't agree with you.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want you to bash me. All right. You know, I didn't want to miss the opportunity to have him on the show and hear those crazy stories.
Well, interviews can go one of two ways. We could do it our way and lose the interview, or we could do it his way and have a hell of a lot of fun. And so we did it his way this time.
And
You
it
know.
isn't like we can't come back and talk about our actual thoughts on the matter. You know, it's just that particular episode, we couldn't do anything.
And if you haven't watched it yet, go back and watch or listen to John Titor Revealed. Is that what it was called?
Yeah, the first
Part
one, it's part 1.
And then you can listen to the
First,
follow-up,
just John Titor
part
Revealed.
2.
But, you know, and here's the funny thing, like, I don't know if you remember, Steve, but he initially was like, I'm not going to be on camera or anything, am I?
Yeah, and then
he fucking switches to his phone.
Because his microphone quit or something. I'm sure he put himself on mute and couldn't figure out how to get off because, you know, it's not DOS-based technology of the future or something. I don't know.
Right.
Because, you know, we all know that it's going to go back to DOS-based technology here in a few years.
But it's, you know, it was fun. I enjoyed it. I mean, it was what it was. Would I much have preferred to have a healthy debate with the guy? Sure.
I don't think we could have had a healthy debate.
No,
with this guy.
I don't either, and that's why I didn't even bother.
Yeah.
Because he would have gotten hostile quick.
And he told us so before the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. He basically said, if you do this, and this, I'm gone.
Mm-hmm.
So we just let him fucking talk, and it was fun, and I had a good time doing it.
Yeah.
And but I do disagree. I mean, I think Elvis didn't die when they said he did. Andy Kaufman is still alive. So there.
Yeah. Yeah. But I'd love to have more interviews on the show. I just don't know how easy it's going to be for us to get them.
Well, because people think we're going to be hostile, and I think that's just an example that we're not. We're just going to go.
And to be honest,
at the moment,
when I did the show after, I didn't like go after the guy. You know, I just basically said the facts.
Yeah, we're going to say that we think he's full of bullshit, but we enjoyed interviewing him at the same time. I mean, it was fun.
Oh yeah.
If we can be nice to Claudia Ackley, I think we can be nice to anyone.
Well, Claudia is different. I mean, Claudia believes in what she's doing. I'm not sure that John Titor II believes in what he's doing.
I mean, the only guest that's had a bad experience with Patrick Epistemon.
And he didn't even see it as a bad experience.
He got to plug his little Bigfoot evidence clone blog, didn't he?
Yeah. And he enjoyed doing the show just as much as we enjoyed having him on. Well, I'm not sure we enjoyed having him. Well, with his DOS-based computer and dial-up internet.
Yeah, that was. I mean, it was interesting. That was a fun interview, to be honest. It was.
I mean, we've had Fasano on, Tim Fasano. We've had Steve Calls. We've had. I mean, and nobody has come back and said, "Oh my God, you treated me unfairly." You know.
Right. Yeah, nobody said that.
Nope.
So I mean, it is what it is. But we'll try to get some more. See if we can do something. But I just don't know how easy it's going to be for us to do that based on, what type of show we are. The people in these communities, they want believers.
Yeah.
That's fact.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that we're going to be conducive to any of that.
No, we could get skeptics on all day, because they agree with a lot of what we say.
Maybe, but I don't know. But we'll see what we can do. That's all we can do.
I do know that some of the fans, I was contacted today by a fan who wondered if we were going to have another guest, and I know that some of the fans do like that. But one of the 5 that listens,
right?
Because it was 6 last week. I think we're down to 5 today.
Sure.
But so
we had 17 listening at one point.
Ooh. Geez, I do a show on my channel with 360 or 330 subscribers, my other channel, and I get 21 live listeners.
That's more than this fucking show.
Yeah, I know. And I don't even advertise it.
Well, let's all suck off Steve's show then.
I do less work for that show than I do for this one, believe it or not.
Wow. On that note, this has been the Fortean Slip, episode 27, the Time Traveler Paradox. If you like this shit, hit the little thumbs up button. If you don't, hit the little thumbs down button. Leave a comment. Subscribe. Check out Matt Knapp at youtube.com/bigfootcrossroads. Check out Richard's blog. I mean, no, his blog is a comic strip. You don't do the blog anymore, do you, Richard?
Not for a while. I sort of gave up on it.
Yeah, check out his comic strip on Facebook, Bigfootin' with Keith and Colin. And check out, as always, Dred Funn at dredfun.com and youtube.com/Dred Funn. And hopefully we'll be back next week with some interesting shit. See ya!